It all started on a sunny Thursday afternoon. One of those perfect days where the sky is so blue it feels like the world's giving you a big ol' hug. My wife, Commander Alyssa Monroe, was finally coming home after a grueling 7-month deployment. Aboard the USS George H.W. Bush, I'd taken the day off work, cleared my schedule, and spent the morning making sure our little slice of suburban heaven in our gated HOA neighborhood was ready for her. The lawn was mowed, the porch was swept, and I even hung a welcome home banner across the living room. I wanted everything to be perfect for her return. Alyssa and I had been married for 8 years, and every deployment felt like a lifetime. She's a Navy commander, tough as nails but with a heart that could melt you. This deployment had been particularly rough, long hours, high-stakes missions, and spotty communication. So when I saw her step out of the rental car at the airport, still in her crisp Navy uniform, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder, I felt my chest tighten with relief. She was home. We hugged like we hadn't seen each other in decades, and on the drive back, we talked about everything and nothing, her stories from the ship, my boring updates about the neighborhood, and how much we missed our evening walks together. We pulled into the driveway of our cozy 2-story home, the one we bought 3 years ago after falling in love with its big windows and quiet cul-de-sac. Alyssa's face lit up as she took it all in, the familiar flower beds, the oak tree we planted together, our little slice of peace. I could see the weight of the past 7 months lifting off her shoulders. We stepped inside, her boots still dusty from the journey, and I was just about to crack open a couple of cold drinks when knock, 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 a sharp, impatient rap at the door. Not even 10 minutes after we'd walked in, I opened the door, and there she was, Karen, the HOA president, standing on our porch like she owned the place. Clipboard in hand, glasses perched on her nose, and a look that screamed, "I'm about to ruin your day." Karen was infamous in our neighborhood. She'd been the HOA president for 2 years, and in that time, she turned our quiet community into her personal fiefdom. Forgot to trim your hedges by an inch, Karen would send you a strongly worded letter. Parked your car a little too close to the curb, Karen would be there with her measuring tape. She thrived on control, and everyone knew it. Without so much as a hello or welcome home, Karen launched into a tirade. "This vehicle," she said, pointing at Alyssa's rental car in the driveway, "is not registered with the HOA. All vehicles must be pre-approved, and I don't have any record of this one." I blinked. Sticker shock hit me. Her car wasn't even parked wrong. It was just a rental. But Karen wasn't done. Furthermore, she continued, her voice dripping with self-righteous indignation, "Military uniforms are not to be worn in public areas of the community. It's in the bylaws, Section 4, Paragraph 2, and unauthorized guests are not permitted to stay overnight without prior HOA approval." I stood there, mouth open, trying to process what I was hearing. Alyssa had been home for exactly 9 minutes, and this woman was standing in our doorway, lecturing us about rules. My wife, who just spent 7 months at sea serving our country, was being treated like a trespasser in her own home. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "Karen," I said, as calmly as I could, "this is my wife, Commander Alyssa Monroe. She lives here. She just got back from a Navy deployment." Karen didn't even blink. "Rules are rules," she snapped, scribbling something on her clipboard. "If you don't comply, I'll have to escalate this to the board." Before I could respond, she turned on her heel and marched off, her sensible shoes clicking on the pavement. I closed the door, fuming, and turned to Alyssa. She was still in her uniform, sitting on the couch, looking more amused than angry. "Well," she said with a smirk, "that's one way to welcome me home. I thought that was the end of it. Maybe Karen would send us a fine or another one of her passive-aggressive letters." But 2 hours later, as Alyssa was unpacking her duffel bag and I was throwing together a quick lunch, I heard the crunch of tires outside. I peeked through the blinds and saw the patrol cars pulling up to our house. My stomach dropped. "Alyssa," I called, "you're not gonna believe this." She joined me at the window. A definition, a term used to describe a situation where a word, phrase, or sentence has 2 or more contradictory meanings or senses. In this case, my intended meaning is that the police were called because of Karen's complaint, but the situation is unclear because of her false report and Alyssa's status as a homeowner. Alyssa stepped outside, still in her uniform, her posture straight and commanding. I followed, my heart pounding. The officers approached, and before they could say anything, one of them, a young guy with a buzz cut, saluted her. Alyssa saluted back, her voice steady as she said, Commander Alyssa. Monroe, U.S. Navy, I live here. This is my home. The officer's eyes widened slightly, and he turned to Karen, who was hovering nearby, looking like she just swallowed a lemon. Ma'am, he said to her, his tone polite but sharp. Did you knowingly file a false report? Karen's face turned beet red. She stammered, I was just concerned about security. I didn't know she lived here, but the officer wasn't having it. He stepped closer to her, his partner taking notes. Filing a false police report is a serious offense, ma'am, he said. You're lucky this is being handled as a warning. He glanced at Alyssa, who was standing tall, her arms crossed. Commander, would you like to press charges? Alyssa shook her head. No, sir. I didn't come home to start a war with the neighborhood. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. The officers nodded, gave Karen a final warning, and left. I looked at my wife, amazed at her composure. You're incredible, I said. She just shrugged and said, I've dealt with worse. That could have been the end of it, but I wasn't about to let Karen's stunt slide. A few days later, the monthly HOA meeting rolled round. I told Alyssa we should go, and she agreed, slipping into her full dress uniform, medals, ribbons, the whole 9 yards. We walked into the community center, and you could have heard a pin drop. Karen was at the front, trying to act like nothing had happened, but the room was buzzing. Word of her stunt had spread like wildfire. We sat quietly in the back, letting the tension build. Karen started the meeting, her voice a little shakier than usual, but she powered through, talking about mailbox maintenance and pool hours. Then, one of our neighbors, an elderly veteran named Mr. Thompson, stood up. His hands shook with anger as he pointed at Karen. Anyone who disrespects a service member like that has no business leading this community, he said. You called the police on a Navy commander in her own home. You should be ashamed. The room erupted in murmurs of agreement. Another neighbor, a young mom who'd always been quiet at these meetings, stood up next. Karen, you've been bullying this neighborhood for years, she said. We're done with it. One by one, more neighbors spoke up, sharing their own stories of Karen's overreach fines for minor infractions, constant nitpicking, and now this. By the time the vote was called, it was unanimous. Karen was out as HOA president, effective immediately. The aftermath was like a breath of fresh air. Alyssa and I started taking evening walks again, and neighbors stopped to chat, thank her for her service, or just smile and wave. The neighborhood felt like a community again, not Karen's personal kingdom. As for Karen, she put her house on the market 2 months later. Last I checked, it still hasn't sold. I guess some people don't learn their lesson, but Alyssa, she's just happy to be home. And me, I'm just proud to be her husband.